Well, let's get more reaction to the defeat with former England defender and Sky Sports pundit Jamie Carragher is waiting to speak to us. Afternoon to you, Jamie. What is this? A feeling of pure frustration for you today? Was it a missed opportunity?
I wouldn't say I'm as frustrated as I was, I think it was 3 years ago against Italy. I think last night, the best team in the tournament won. They were far better than England last night. And I think you just have to, accept that. I think the one a few years ago against Italy, we go 1-0 up early on, we're at home, we're at Wembley. That was a greater opportunity. But Spain have been the best team in the tournament by a long way. And they were a lot better than England last night. So, yes, you can be frustrated, you lost a big game, but the best team won.
It is back-to-back Euro finals defeats, though. I just wonder, as a former player, can you get your head around it? How hard will it be for these players to pick themselves up after losing another major final?
Listen. The next few weeks will be tough. They'll be on holiday, but they'll have the focus going on the clubs and getting back here and starting the Premier League, and that'll take the mind off what's happened with England. I think it's a little bit different with international football, and that they won't meet up with England again until maybe September, October. There's not another tournament for 2 years. It's slightly different with a club situation where you lose a big game, or you go to maybe the Champions League, and then you've got to play a Premier League game 3 or 4 days later. So I don't think that's too big a problem in terms of picking themselves up in terms of, for England and international football, because the focus now will shift in the next couple of weeks to the start of the Premier League.
Gareth Southgate echoed your thoughts that they lost to the better team. But there was that moment, Ollie Watkins had come on, Cole Palmer had come on, there was that excitement, that energy, they scored the equaliser. How frustrating, disappointing, I don't know what the right word is, that they didn't push on and seem to sit back again.
Well, he didn't. I keep hearing this. I obviously didn't do the TV, that's on BBC and ITV, but I just wish people actually analyse the game sometimes rather than just coming out with statements and just saying things. If you actually look at the winning goal for Spain that we conceded, half the team is pressing high and pushing up. The other half of the team's sort of further back. And that was a problem going back to the start of the tournament. We haven't pressed well as a team. We haven't been compact. And when you look at that winning goal that Spain scored, we'd have been better off all sitting back and being together and being compact. The space in the middle of the pitch is absolutely unbelievable. But again, I think sometimes we're talking about the team and what we don't do as a country on the football pitch. I think sometimes when we're analysing the game as well, we analyse the results. We don't actually analyse the game and look at actually what's gone on in the game. And if you look back at that goal that we conceded late on, the space on that pitch is just, you can't actually get your head around it when we're sort of 4 minutes away from maybe going to extra time. And that's been a big problem throughout this tournament. We've had a few problems as well, breaking teams down when we've had the ball, but also when we haven't had the ball. We've had a great defensive record, but at times when we've played decent teams and not even great teams at the start of the tournament, our press, and that's one of the reasons why he brought Ollie Watkins on. If you listen to what Gareth Southgate said at the end of the game, it wasn't about just bringing on pace to actually stretch the opposition and run behind and get a goal. It was actually to be pressing better from the front, and him and Cole Palmer try and press from the front. The rest of the team are further back now. Gareth Southgate's not telling the ones who've come on to press and the other ones to sit back and creating a situation where there's probably 50, 60 yards between front and back. So, it's not just a case, it's about being organised with and without the ball, and we never quite got that right without the ball last night, and that's why Spain dominated on the ball.
Yeah, maybe that. I hear what you said. 50% of them were pressing the other one. Yeah, they were caught twixt the two. In your newspaper piece today, you felt the players should shoulder the blame for this exit. Why do you feel that they underperformed?
We'll have to ask them. Gareth Southgate, it may seem to people I'm sort of like this chief leader of the Gareth Southgate fan club. I don't really know Gareth Southgate, but he's managed 4 tournaments. This is the first tournament that I've been underwhelmed with the performances. So I know he gets this criticism of he's a cautious manager, he's defensive, he doesn't do this, he doesn't do that. But the 3 tournaments before this, we played really well, we've scored a lot of goals, and we've gone really close. This is the first time we haven't performed to what we'd expect of our players. Now, how can I then say that to the manager if the 3 previous tournaments we played really well? Now, of course, the manager questions can be asked of him in terms of, the teams he's picked, the substitutions he's made, whatever he's done. Of course, the buck stops with the manager. But when you think of England's attacking players, we think we've got some of the best attacking players probably in Europe in terms of Harry Kane, Saka, Foden, Jude Bellingham. I would say there's only Saka who's come out of this tournament and can say he's played well. And even Saka can actually probably do a little bit more in certain games as well. Bellingham's had two brilliant moments, that initial first goal and the overhead kick. But in the main, he hasn't played anywhere near his level. I've just been watching Sky Sports News, and it said Phil Foden had played, I think, 67, 68 games this season. So I'm watching Bellingham and I'm watching Harry Kane, and they just weren't themselves. Now, that can be tiredness as well. It is there. It is at the end of the season. Phil Foden's played that many games as well. So 3 out of our 4 best attacking talents haven't quite performed at this tournament. It could be form, it could be the tactics, it could be tiredness, it could be anything. But when your best players are not at the best, we've done pretty well to get to a final.
Yeah, and one of those players who perhaps wasn't at his best, Harry Kane, had 13 touches, just one inside the box. What do you think was wrong with Harry Kane in this performance, because in this tournament, because he's not the player that we know and have seen in an England shirt and a Bayern Munich shirt and a Tottenham shirt?
No, he wasn't. And again, you've got to sometimes listen to what the manager said. The manager said at the end of the game, he was lacking games and sharpness coming into it because he had, I think, a back injury towards the end of the season at Bayern Munich. And he picked that up in the Real Madrid game in the Champions League semi-final. Now, what do you do when you've got a player of that quality and he's your captain? Well, you're hoping the group stage games, he will get that sort of sharpness, that fitness, and he will grow into the tournament. And it didn't happen. He didn't grow into the tournament, but it's very difficult to not play Harry Kane when he's one of the best strikers in world football. He's just scored nearly 50 goals this season for Bayern Munich. Now, Harry Kane, for me, has never been the greatest player for England in a tournament. I think he finds it tough in a tournament on the back of a long season. Now, I think I love Harry Kane. I think he's fantastic. But when you think of what he's like as a player, he's a great goal scorer. He's a great passer to the ball. He can drop deep. He can hold the ball. But you wouldn't class him as a great athlete and a great mover across the ground when he plays. And I think this is not like the end for Harry Kane. I think you can look at Harry Kane in lots of tournaments for England and sort of say, he doesn't look as sharp as, or is he carrying a knock? I just think he carries the season that he's played, or whatever team that will be, Tottenham or Bayern Munich. And then you get to a summer tournament and it's roasting hot, you're tired from the end of the season, and he doesn't look at his best. So I don't think this is a problem in terms of Harry Kane's age or anything like this, or he's coming to the end. I've seen Harry Kane sort of perform like this in tournaments going back sort of 7 or 8 years. So I don't think it's at the end for Harry Kane. I just think at times he finds it tough in a tournament. And also, I think the team, when you think of the setup of the team, we had too many players wanting to do the same thing. I said this after 2 games. I felt Gareth should have changed after 2 games and got more pace in the attack. But you think of last night, if Spain are going to have a lot of the ball and we're going to try and play on the counter-attack, 3 out of the 4 attacking players we had on the pitch like to come to feet. There's only Saka likes to go on behind. So the actual makeup of the team, really, there was too many players doing the same thing. And I think that was a problem from in the group stage as well.
Yeah, I'm thinking back to 66 when a fit again Jimmy Greaves was available for the final, and Sir Alf Ramsey went for Geoff Hurst, and the rest is history. If you were in charge of that England team, would you then not have started Kane in that final?
I would have started Kane in the final. I think that's nonsense. There's talk that Harry Kane shouldn't have played in the final. The makeup of the team, as I've said, wasn't right. Now, under Gareth Southgate, it's been Harry Kane's team. Phil Foden and Jude Bellingham have sort of been added on, and Saka and these some young players. But the guy who's been there from the start has been the captain, who's scored 60-odd goals for England and who's done it in an England shirt. We're still waiting for a lot of players to do it in an English shirt. Yeah. So the idea that you come into this tournament and not play Harry Kane, or you wouldn't wait for him to try and get up to speed because he's a world-class striker. Ollie Watkins is a very good Premier League striker. He had an unbelievable moment against Holland. But there's no way in the world that I would have not started Harry Kane in that European Championship final. Not a chance. And Gareth, brought him off after an hour, against Holland as well. And what you've got to remember is, you're talking about 66. Jimmy Jeeves didn't play for a lot of those games. Jeff Hurst played for a lot of those games and built his sort of thing up to the final. Ollie Watkins had a good sort of 10 minutes when he came on and scored a great goal off fantastic moments. We'll always remember. But, no, not a chance. I wouldn't have played. I'd have played Harry Kane, 100%.
Mm-hmm. Gareth Southgate, as we know, will now consider his future. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what you're saying is he very much has the right. He very much has the right to make that decision himself.
It's the FA's decision first, but I'm sure they'd want to keep him. I'd like Gareth Southgate. I think he should stay. But listen, I could totally understand if he walks away, because I think some of the criticism he does get, considering what he's achieved with England, is way over the top. And it makes me laugh when I hear some of the people get. Who are England going to get now? Who would actually want to take the England job right now? Considering that basically you've got to go and win the World Cup or the next Euros to be deemed a success, because Gareth Southgate's got to 2 finals and a semi-final. So what manager out there is looking at England and thinking, how can I better get what Gareth Southgate's done? You've got to win the World Cup. We are a nation who wins trophies. We're not Brazil. We're not a team who's got a history or journey of winning trophies for years and years. Yes, we want to change that. So I can't see too many managers licking their lips and thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to take this on from Gareth Southgate. There's not much room to improve with that. And I've seen Jurgen Klopp mention because he's out of a job and we love him. But number one, England shouldn't be having a foreign manager. We've been down that road as well. And the 2 managers we had did nothing, absolutely nothing for England in those tournaments. And we keep getting obsessed by these great managers at international level. I can guarantee you most people in England, if not 95% of them, have never heard of the Spanish manager before this tournament. Never heard of him. The top managers are in the Champions League because that's where they want to be. International football, for me, is about the players. The manager can't go and buy anyone. He's got to work with the best of what he's got and get the most out of them. And people argue that another manager could get more out of this England group. Maybe they could, but they'd have to win a tournament. And we've only done it once in about 100 years, so good luck with that one.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. But to go to Jurgen Klopp, it takes a long time on the training ground to play the way Jurgen Klopp wants you to play, doesn't it? And the simple fact is any international manager doesn't get that time.
Exactly. And that's why the best managers don't manage at international football. You look at the winners of international tournaments, they're not huge. The Spanish manager is another example. Mancini is probably one of the outliers who've done it with Italy. Obviously 3 years ago. But then a couple of years later, Italy didn't qualify for the World Cup. The last tournament. So, yeah, for me, I think the problem Gareth Southgate's got is most people in this country look at him when he got the job and seen him as an FA guy. He's an interim manager to start with. He's got no background in being successful in football. But the days are gone when, years ago in the 70s and 80s, when a manager in the first division who'd done really well, whether that was sort of Bobby Robson, Ron Greenwood, Don Revie, Sir Alf Ramsey at Ipswich, and the England job was the ultimate. The England job is not the ultimate anymore. It's managing one of the top clubs in the Premier League and trying to get into the Champions League and managing at that level, because that's where the money is, that's where the best managers and the best players are. So more often than not now, as you've seen with Spain, they'll promote an under-21 manager and he'll take on the job because he understands international football. And that's why Gareth Southgate's been brilliant for England. He was the under-21 manager. He knows international football. He knows the players. He's brilliant with the media. Every time there's a story, and there's always a story around England, he doesn't fan the flames, he dampens them. And that's what you want a manager to do at international level. So he ticks a lot of boxes for me, Gareth Southgate. And I'm not quite sure who this manager is we're all crying out for. You think is going to make this difference and make this team that we've got and players that we've got start playing like Brazil 70.
Yeah, there's so many factors involved in trying to win an international tournament. Luck, perhaps one of the biggest ones in how the games fall and injuries and the like. But that experience you said Gareth Southgate has got and the squad has now got, you've not got a crystal ball, but could they go on and win the World Cup in 2026?
They could, but it'd be really tough. We're not a nation with a history of winning these tournaments. We're not one of the top nations. History tells you that. And that's why Gareth Southgate's done so well compared to our record since '66. I think this group now believe whenever they go to a tournament, they can go close. And we've got some top players, there's no doubt about that. But there's no doubt when you watch that game last night, and people don't want to hear it, but you know, the fact that we played extra time twice as well, which is our own fault, didn't quite help. They had an extra day's rest. All these things make such small differences, but they define games at the top level. Spain were much better than us last night, but we still only lose the game 2-1 with a goal in the 86th minute. You know, so it's fine margins that make the difference. Small details make a big difference at the top level. And you know that maybe those things go for you. You don't play extra time. You're the country that has the extra day's rest. I'm not making excuses, but my point being is these small little details, as I said, make a big difference at the highest level. And Spain were the best team throughout this tournament and deserve to win. And it's right that they were the winning team.
When their history books are written, despite the fact they didn't win the trophy, will these Euros be reflected on as a success or a failure?
More of a success than a failure. It's definitely not a failure. It can't be a failure when England get to a final. But I don't think it'd be looked back on this tournament the way other tournaments have been looked back on under Gareth Southgate. So we didn't perform, we didn't play. And one of the things that Gareth Southgate's done that I think has been different in the past is that he's created a club mentality, I feel. The England players, it feels like it's a club. It wasn't like that when I was playing. And I think when you look at what England have done in this tournament, I think that club mentality and Gareth Southgate's changes from the bench, even though at times I've felt they were late, but this tournament, they've proven right how often someone from the bench has made a difference. You look at Cole Palmer last night as well. That's what's got England to the final. A club mentality, a togetherness, sticking together when they're not playing well and getting over the line, whether that's last-minute goals, winning a penalty shootout, and changes from the bench. And that's what's got England, you know, this far to the final, because it hasn't been a vintage England. We know they can produce more than this. We've seen it in the past, but it always doesn't come together. You can't play well in every single tournament. And in the main, England have done really well under Gareth Southgate, but they've got to a final by not playing well. That's actually a credit to what's been created there by Gareth Southgate in terms of it, you know, togetherness, a club feel, and also the changes he made from the bench.
Yeah. Lovely to speak to you as always, Jamie. Thank you very much for your time.